Hello, and welcome to my top 10 Eureka Blu-ray releases for 2024. I really wanted to do this for 2023 because I'd kind of reviewed so many of their releases that year, but there was a couple missing. I forget what it was. There was something that I didn't get. And so I was like, well, if I haven't watched every single thing, then I shouldn't do it. But I'm going to plow ahead with this one, still without having seen everything from 2024 yet, because there was a huge backlog of releases from November, or previously to November, and it all dropped in November. There's like The Sword, the Tank Girl, there's like two Shaw Brothers sets, Black Tuesday, which I have got to, Secret of Nim, which I have got to, and it's just like, holy shit. It's just a big drop of stuff right at the end of the year. Anyway, so I'm working my way through the last bits of those, although there's more than just a few bits, there's quite a lot of films. But I've seen most of the 2024 releases, and so I thought, let's do a top 10, and you'll hear my thoughts on other stuff in other videos. It's fine. But this is really difficult to nail down to a top 10, and I really kind of, the order I tinkered with quite a bit, and what I'm going for here is it's Eureka wide. It's not just the Masters of Cinema collection. It's everything that Eureka released in 2024. I have a list. I've already forgotten. I think it's like 35 releases, 36 releases, something like that. Anyway, so I've done some honorable mentions to start off with a few things I really want to kind of name check, because they almost made the list. But my criteria for this is quite simply, well, it's threefold. Number one, first and foremost, it's the film. That's the most important part. Number two is the special features, the transfer, kind of everything that's on the disc. And then the third thing, which is minor but still a little bit part of the consideration, is the packaging or the artwork. But first and foremost, again, it is the film. And we'll talk about that as we get through it. So just a few quick honorable mentions at the beginning here. The Paths of Glory 4K re-release, MOC Spine number 155. This just looked incredible, and what a great film too. The black and white cinematography it looked incredible in 4K. Just to see extra detail, to see the film looking better than I'd ever seen it before. Kirk Douglas's performance was incredible. And just those scenes in the trenches feel like some of the more visceral war scenes I've ever seen in a film. But it's really the human drama outside of those trench sequences that is kind of the core of this. But it's just a phenomenal release. I can't remember if they have so this is the other artwork on the other side here. But yeah, this is just a great kind of re-release from Eureka. I'm glad to see them doing that slowly but surely. Kind of getting back to some of their classic releases like Touch of Evil they did last year, I think, and then was it Cabinet of Caligari? We got Cure coming next year, in January, imminently actually. Kiyoshi Kurosawa, which is a great film, so I'm excited about that. That also has a new interview with Bong Joon-ho, which is awesome, so I'm really excited about Cure. And in general, excited for 2025. Some of their announced stuff so far is really, really interesting. The Dr. Mabusa set looks like a lot of fun. But another 4K release from this year, 2024, that I really enjoyed, on the opposite end of the spectrum to like a Kubrick film, but we have China O'Brien 1 and 2 4K. I love the artwork on this one. I just love the kind of what they did with this. Like the spine here is very, well, 90s, even though these are two films released in 1990. But there's just like, I don't know, I love the feel of this cover, and I loved these films. They weren't phenomenal films by any stretch of the imagination, but you got Cynthia Rothrock, and kind of a nice two-parter, really. It feels like a kind of almost like two extended episodes of a TV show, which may or may not sound like a backhanded compliment, but to see films like this, which I believe were like direct-to-video, in 4K looking beautiful. I made a video just raving about how great this 4K looked. Just the grain and the detail and the colors and just the films themselves I've really, really enjoyed. I like Cynthia Rothrock a lot, and it was nice to see like a proper starring vehicle, or two starring vehicles with Cynthia Rothrock at the front. Now we had a couple of like faux Bruceploitation films, I would say, released this year from Eureka. There was Slaughter in San Francisco, which is a blast, with like a Chuck Norris playing a bad guy, and then there was Man Called Tiger, which I loved, and that was really close to all. I think I actually have it here. Actually, yeah, it makes sense. I put this in the stack too. So we have two here. which are essentially kind of those early 70s films where they tried to kind of, is it both Golden Harvest? I'm not actually sure. Both Fortune Star. I'm pretty sure they're both Golden Harvest, 1976, 1973. Trying to find the next Bruce Lee, and these lead stars are very much kind of positioned as that kind of Bruce Lee type, and you can see these films as Bruce Lee films. We have A Man Called Tiger with Jimmy Wong Yu. I just love this film so much, and the extras package was fantastic. And then the other one is The Double Crosses, which I kind of went into kind of not expecting too much, to be honest with you. This one, I love this one. I think the second half is set in what country is it? Is it Thailand? Let's see. Just because I know, just the setting was gorgeous. Lots of location stuff. It doesn't say. Yeah, violent criminal now living in Hong Kong. Yeah, it doesn't really. Yeah, but it's anyway. It's just yeah, and this one's in Japan. So I mean, you got kind of two films set in different countries. But I just love both of these. They're both films that I wasn't like that amped up for, but I ended up loving, and they're both kind of like action revenge films as well. And I really just was drawn in by the story, or stories plural. Getting to kind of be acquainted with the Yuen clan a bit more this year has been awesome, and emblematic of that was their release of The Miracle Fighters. This is just an absolute blast. Yuen Wo-ping directed. You got a big chunk of the Yuen clan involved in this one. Yuen Yat Chor and some of the others who I kind of forgotten some of the actual Yuen Chun Yi, who plays kind of the bat, the sorcerer bat villain in this one. But who's the one who plays the old woman? He is fantastic. It doesn't say. I haven't committed all these names to memory. I'm trying, but absolutely batshit crazy. I mean, it's just that term that it just applies. It applies to this lock, stock, and barrel. And then there was also the two Taoist Tales release, which is kind of like the two spiritual sequels to this, or two of them. So I don't think I have that here, actually. I just throw that in for good measure as well. These ones are just absolutely bonkers. These films are just like martial arts action, fantasy, magic, sorcery, bonkers stuff, like absolutely mental. Like I couldn't even begin to start describing some of the stuff outside of just full-on reviews of both of them. But yeah, these two releases, the Yuen clan, just gone crazy, off the chain, was awesome. And this one I'm just throwing in there because I've only watched one film of it from it so far, and it is a 4-film set. I think it just came out. I think it's a December release. Horrible History, 4 historical epics by Chang Che. This is where the Eureka is starting to put out some Shaw Brothers stuff, and these are 4 films that are kind of linked to historical kind of figures or events or time periods. There is Marco Polo, The Pirate, Boxer Rebellion, and Four Riders. I've only seen Marco Polo. I actually quite like this cover. People seem to not like it very much. I quite like the even the title I quite like. But yeah, so I've watched Marco Polo, and I loved it. Oh my god, I'm looking forward to talking about that in a separate video. Marco Polo was the second half of it. Oh, so good. So I'm kind of cautiously excited to get into the rest of them as well. Anyway, let's get into the top 10. Coming in at number 10, we have a release I almost forgot about because it came in right at the beginning of the year. This is spine number 282 and 283 of the MOC collection, the Masters of Cinema, Samurai Wolf 1 and 2 from Hideo Gosha, 1966 and 1967. I love these films. They're pretty short too, 74 and 72 minutes respectively. Pulpy kind of samurai films. You got this kind of samurai wolf character. Is his name Kiba? Yeah, Kiba. I remembered that. It was almost a year since I watched these films. And it's your typical kind of, Ronin walks into a small little village area in the wilderness. Not the wilderness. Leave them for free. But, in like the sparse countryside of kind of feudal era Japan. And actually, I don't think it is feudal era. I think these ones are actually set in the 1800s. But either way, it's kind of, it's that the styles influencing the styles influencing the styles. Kurosawa being influenced by the spaghetti western, or John Ford and that style of western, and then spaghetti western kind of pulling from what Kurosawa was doing, and then back again. Really, really cool kind of visual films. There's some great kind of moments of like the duels with the swords. I don't know, there's something about these two that are just so fun to watch. And even though again they're like 70 minutes a piece pretty much, they pack in so much, and they're really great stories. Yeah, and again, pulpy but like fun and really elegantly put together. I love both of them, and there's some really good extras on this one, including, I believe, the daughter of Hideo Gosho, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Tomoe Gosha. I really enjoyed that one, talking about her father and stuff. Really good commentary by Jasper Sharp on the second film as well. This is just a great release, and I love this. This might be up there with my favorite artwork pieces from the year. Tony Stella on this one, really really great. But yeah, I feel like this release kind of came in and didn't get quite as much pomp and circumstance as some of the other ones, but I thought that it was brilliant. Both of them were brilliant actually, and this is what I love about collecting. This is what I love about Eureka. I'd never heard of these films before. Black and white as well, which I think really added something to the feel of it, the classical feeling of it. But again, it's not like a Kurosawa samurai film, and it's not like a spaghetti western, but there's elements, and you can just feel the influences creeping in a good way. This next one is spine number 200, and no, not 200. We're moving out of the 200s. Yes, it's taken many years, but we're finally there. Spine number 301. This crept in right at the last minute, quite literally almost. I was just listening to one of the commentaries of this a few hours ago, which is an amazing comment. I'll talk about that in a second, and later down the line as well in a separate video. Of course, this is The Secret of Nim, Don Bluth, 1982, I believe. Yes. Wow. I have a lot to say about this, but I just want to kind of, I don't know, I don't want to come across badly, or I don't know, I don't want to sound like I just have a backwards view of like Blu-rays or anything. This edition doesn't have a very good transfer. It's an outdated master. The look of the film, I think, leaves a lot to be desired. That being said, I think this is like almost a 10 out of 10 Blu-ray release. I couldn't go 10 out of 10 because I think the master, the transfer of the film it's not cleaned up. There's the background flicker sometimes. There's a lot of scratches and dirt and things like that, and it isn't fully restored in the way that I believe a film like this should be restored. I'd never seen it before. I loved it. I love animation, and I'll talk about it in the separate review I do of this, of course, down the line. I need to make sure I don't get too carried away here in the top 10 video. But the kind of care and attention to detail and love I feel like that's been poured into this release by Eureka is fantastic. Now, obviously, they didn't have the financial clout to like scan the film in themselves from the original negatives or anything like that. Eureka are not a company who are known for doing that, and I can only assume that's a financial thing. So they had a choice. Okay, we have access to license the master for Secret of Nim. Should we release it or just leave it because the transfer isn't great? Now, it isn't unwatchable, it isn't terrible, but it's not great, right? And I'm watching, I'm thinking, I wish that this looked a little bit better. But then, the film takes over, and I was so drawn into this strange kind of miniature epic. I love the kind of setting of it and how it's all through the perspective of these mice primarily, and then you have the rats of Nim, and just the fact that like one of the main settings of the film is inside this rose bush, and they go down deeper and deeper, and there's this whole society. I love that shit, and the animation is just beautiful, and the story behind the film, why it exists, the fact that Don Bluth and his fellow animators were disgruntled working at Disney, and they were not satisfied with the cutting of corners that were going on at Disney in the 70s, and so they broke off and made their own kind of film, and did it in the way that they felt like animated films should be done. If you're going to make a feature film, make it a feature film. Put in all the effects that you can, reflection, smoke, little details that really just breathe so much life into characters like the ones that you see in this film. And it was a renegade move, and it kind of paid off. The film wasn't very successful, but at least it sparked something. and I've learned so much from this Blu-ray. There's two commentaries on there, and the one that I absolutely loved is the new one that's been commissioned for this release specifically. I'm gonna get the guy's name, Sam Summers. His commentary on this was fantastic. I just loved every second of it. Like, so much information, and he leaves pauses at times for little like lines in the film that he likes. I really enjoyed that. It didn't feel like a kind of breathless, let me give you all this information and pack it in quickly. But it was so fascinating to hear, not even information about the making of the film, but just the about Don Bluth and the why there are things in this film that are special and not ordinary at the time. And the whole Xeroxing thing that Disney. There's just so many like interesting, fascinating stories in that commentary alone. Then there's a new interview with Don Bluth himself, which was just great. I loved listening to everything he had to say, reflecting on the film after 40 years. There's an archival documentary that they brought over and ported over from the previous release. There is an audio commentary with Don Bluth ported over from the previous releases. There's a beautiful image gallery with stills from the film and kind of promotional stuff set to this lovely music, the beautiful Jerry Goldsmith score. I just loved everything about this. Even the essay in the booklet, I thought, just hit the perfect spot of filling in all the little bits of information that I didn't get from the commentary and the other things. There's new video essays that have been commissioned. So what they did, and I like it, on the back it says a 1080p presentation on Blu-ray from a studio supplied master. That's almost like the dirty phrase, isn't it? A studio supplied master. So again, if this film, if they had like an amazing new transfer from the original negatives, I'd be like, buy it now, it's incredible. But I would still say that because I just think what they've done with this edition is what physical media is all about. This is the best release of this film that's ever been, and I love them for that. And I hope we get more animation. I hope this sells well, and I just loved the whole experience, which is kind of what I love, about DVD, Blu-ray, 4Ks, is that you get an overall experience with behind the scenes stuff that I find interesting, and it enhances my enjoyment of the film. And I thought the film was wonderful, and you get what I mean, I hope. Anyway, I just felt like it'd be weird to say this is great. The transfer isn't very good though, And there'll be more in that vein a little bit later on. So it's I have to be honest about it. As much as I love Eureka, but they used what was available and made the overall package so much better, and I just think that's great. I love it, and great to see another animated film in the collection. I hope we see more. Number 8, we have Prison Walls, and I'm stunned that this is this low in the list for me because holy shit, I loved this release. I love all three films, Abashiri Prison 1, 2, and 3. The whole Abashiri Bangaichi series is really intriguing to me. I wish that this one had been more successful and we'd get more. As far as I'm aware, someone on the forum was saying like it didn't seem like this one was selling well, or it hasn't sold out yet, because there's been quite a few sellouts this year actually. But I don't think this one. Maybe this was. I'm not sure. But anyway, there's a lot of people who are talking about, I hope they release more of them, and someone was saying, I don't think they will, based on the fact this didn't sell out as quickly as you would expect. I don't know. But either way, I loved all three of these films. Ken Takakura, and, it's called Prison Walls, but only one of the films is a prison movie. The other two are more closely associated with maybe a Yakuza film. But considering the film, all the films are called, I think, Abashiri Prison or Abashiri Bangaichi. I guess it kind of fits in with the way that these films were released and promoted anyway. I think he does go back to prison eventually, because it's a long series of many, many movies. But, man, the first film in particular, and this is another great, I've already shown you, but man, just look again. Look for a second time at this gorgeous piece by Tony Stella. So you get the first three films, all from 1965. They pumped these films out at a pace. And you just get, all this great information about the films in the commentaries and the extras, and the beautiful booklet. But it comes down to the films for me. I just think Ken Takakura is such a magnetic screen presence, and to see these three films with him in the leading role. But even the other actors, I forget the name now, but there's like an older Japanese actor who's in all three of them playing different characters, and he's fantastic. Another great screen presence. But the first one in particular, I absolutely loved. The third one is more of a traditional Yakuza film with a great finale, with a great villain. Just great. And you got Tony Rain's piece on Abashiri Prison. and commentary tracks in all three films. And these, the transfers in these are really good, really really good transfers. So again, most releases that Eureka do, you can count on the picture quality being excellent. So in the case of going back to Secret of Nim, it's just one of those things, and I do think it is worth, because who's ever gonna put up the clout probably to do a full restoration of Secret of Nim? It may never happen. So if it may never happen, release the film and give it a lovely edition. That's what I say. Moving on now, we have number 10, 9, 8, 7. We have The Champions, directed by Brandy Yuen. Yuen Bu in the lead here. Dick Wei is an amazing villain. He's just, it's not even that you love to hate him. He's just delicious in a delicious villain. He's just such a smarmy, punchable kind of villain that you just love to see get thwarted. And Yuen Bu plays this guy who kind of unwittingly gets kind of thrust into this world of football. And there was a post by Eureka on Instagram saying 2024's come to a close, and what was your favorite release and all that kind of stuff. And there's a graphic of all the releases kind of in this big grid, and someone commented going, yeah, only 6 of those weren't martial arts releases. Yawn, how the mighty have fallen. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. And I counted them, and I was like, well, there's actually at least 16 of those releases that aren't martial arts films, which is almost half of what they put out in 2024. I don't know whether I would call this a martial arts film. Because there's a couple of fights in it, but mainly the choreography that you would usually associate. I'll leave that in for free as well. The choreography that you would usually associate with Yuen Bu and Dick Wei is put into the football matches. And there's a brilliant scene in this where Dick Wei and Yuen Bu, they're in this bar, and they're both trying to one up each other, and eventually they get on the dance floor with their respective women, and there's this dance sequence where they're trying to kind of fight each other while they're dancing with the women, but they're trying to make the women not see that they're fighting. It's brilliant. The choreography is just incredible, and it's funny. It's so funny. There's great comedy, kind of action comedy, but yeah, and another great in terms of the extras. I mean, look, the back of it is just loaded with stuff. I love going through all of that stuff. I believe there's at least 2 commentaries on this, right? Mike Leader, Arna Venema, Frank Zhang, FJ DeSanto, and a great football-themed, Hong Kong-themed featurette from CFK, where Arna Venema going around to these various kind of football pitches in Hong Kong, but also kind of talking about the Hong Kong celebrity football team and creating his own kind of dream team. Really fun, just kind of unexpected, but really well made and entertaining extra. There's an interview with James Mudge talking about the film itself and the football movie. It's just great stuff. Again, you can always count on them to put together really interesting special features. I think there's always something that I find fascinating. Or in the case of the Hong Kong, what was it called exactly? It doesn't say the title of the featurette. Just brand new featurette looking at the 1987 Hong Kong celebrity football team. But that's just a kind of a slightly not off base, but it's not really related to the film as such, but it's fun, and it ties in very nicely to the football theme and Hong Kong itself. But I loved The Champions. Okay, I'm getting lost in the numbering. Just a second here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So number 6, I believe this is the final 4K in the video. This is by number 288 in the MOC collection. It is The Valiant Ones by King Hu in 4K. This, to me, felt like a Kurosawa film. It's the same cover. I don't know why I took it out. It felt to me like a Kurosawa film, and it's not to kind of do it a disservice or kind of just boil it down to, well, it's just like a Kurosawa film. But it had a classical feeling to it. And it's about these Japanese pirates. I believe they're Japanese pirates. Yes. And these warriors and the valiant ones, I guess you could say. Sammo Hung plays one of the villains. And there's actually quite a few different kind of, not cameos as such, but for me, kind of getting more acquainted with these Hong Kong stars, kind of going, oh, look, it's a young, Yuen Bu or Yuen Hua, But Sammo Hung is quite, maybe not quite featured, but he's definitely one of the more notable villains towards the end of the film. But the cinematography and just the staging of it all, it just felt really well done. Like it felt like you're watching something that a master filmmaker was putting together. There's one, I think it's one of the later stage films from King Hu. I'm not sure how long his career was, but 1975. And I I'm trying to think. I've already forgotten. I need to look this up again. But Tony Raines has a great, and there's one of the reasons I put this in there. I didn't love this film as much as maybe some of the other ones, or was entertained by it as much. But the extras package on this is outstanding. There's so many great. I know we could go into all of them. There's lots of new video extras on here that are just really, and there's archival ones as well, and a really good Tony Raines piece. I think Tony Raines says that this was shot entirely in Taiwan, or he said it was shot entirely in Hong Kong. And then Frank Zheng in his commentary says the opposite. And I messaged Frank and I was just like, because I don't know how you'd contact Tony Raines. I was like, so are you right? Or was he right? Or you wrong? And Frank was like, I'm pretty sure I'm right. I checked with like multiple sources. So I just found that interesting from a behind the scenes perspective. There were two differing kind of words there on the Blu-ray release, and I kind of had to kind of do my own digging, just my own peace of mind, I suppose. And I will report back on that because I haven't done my full review of this. It's a thing. Like it's been a shit year for me. Unfortunately, now 3 deaths this year for well, 2 deaths from family members, and a friend of mine passed away as well. And it's just like this is one of those ones that slipped through the cracks. And I didn't do the full review of it, but I watched all the extras. I watched the film, listened to the commentary. The 4K looked gorgeous, and it's a film that's shot on location, so you just get so many great colors and textures as well. You know, there's just, I don't know, there's just something about this film that I absolutely loved. I might even watch it again and then do the full review. And but you know, it's time, and you know, I never have enough of it. But I loved this release, and it really got me itching to watch some more King Hu stuff. So moving into the top 5 now, we have The Cat and the Canary, which is spine number 284 in the MOC collection. Classic silent film, the old dark house kind of feel to this one. And this is 1927, directed by Paul Lenny. This one was excellent. I loved every second of it. I just loved the spookiness of it, the elegance of it. The playfulness of even the intertitles in this film. Just brilliant. I love the artwork here on the front too. Really, really fun. Maybe don't look too closely if you haven't seen the film, because it kind of gives away a little bit of a reveal there. And what the artwork is like on the inside, I've forgotten already. I think it's the same. It's the same, yeah. But man, this is another one with an incredible array of special features. Just great stuff. And I don't know, I as a fan of silent cinema, I'm always going to kind of prefer these films more, I think. But this one, I mean, sometimes they're enjoyable. That's the thing with me with silent films. I enjoy them on 2 different levels. One is just the pure level of like, wow, this is something that was filmed like 100 years ago. 2 is, you know, the film itself, as you would be, you know, entertained by any other film. You know, if I see a film from the 70s or the 80s or the 60s, like, wow, this was done in the 60s. But there's a different feel to a silent film, because it's like in the baby steps of cinema, you know, which is an art form that is still an infant at this point compared to, like, you know, music or, you know, art or literature. It's crazy how you know, just how small the history of film really is when you look at it in the broader scope of just art in general. Obviously performance and that kind of thing. Theatre is much older, but in the film form, which is different, yeah, I get so caught up in just that aspect of it. But this is one of those ones where I marvel at it because it's the fact that it's even still exists and has been preserved, and in this case, is sourced from a 4K digital restoration from the original negatives. Looks incredible, and all the color of the tinting and stuff is really, you know, just beautifully captured in this release and transfer. But also as a film, it was just so good. Like I just and is it Laura LaPlante? That seems to jump. Again, it's been about 6 months since I saw this, and Laura LaPlante, who plays the kind of the niece Annabelle, brilliant screen presence, and the actors are really fun in this too. They're really lively, but not like over the top lively as you sometimes see in silent films. Amazing release. Could talk about it a lot more in depth. I've done a video on it before, and I actually filmed, I think, an extended review of it, and I just didn't have the time to get around to editing it with all the clips and stuff again. It's just one of I have about 10 or 12, I think, reviews of Eureka Blu-rays that are like 45 minutes to an hour long, where I just thought, oh my god, that's gonna take me like a week and a half to edit, and I just never get around to it. You know, it's just one of those things. I think I reviewed Valley Girl with Nicolas Cage, and my footage for it was like 80 minutes, and I just thought this will take up like a whole month to edit if I really go into it. So I might just release those as is without clips and stuff. I don't know if I was interested in that. Probably not. But anyway, so Cat and the Canary, great. Number 4, we have Spine number 292 in the MOC collection, Message from Space. I remember when this was announced and people kind of snickered a little bit. They're like, "Oh God, what is the MOC line come to?" You know, Message from Space, the Star Wars knockoff film by Kinji Fukasaku, 1978. Message from Space. This is a film that not only, in a sense, ripped off Star Wars. This is a film that not only actively was trying to capitalize on the success of Star Wars, this is a film that was also trying to preempt Star Wars, because when Star Wars came out in May 1977 and took the world by storm, the worldwide release was not as quick as you might expect. I believe it was Christmas when it came out in the UK. I may be wrong. I think December 77. Japan didn't get it until, I believe, the middle of 78. And so they caught on to the fact that this was a huge film. They sent some people to, I think, Hawaii to watch the film, make notes, come back, and then based on those notes, they made Message from Space, which is absolutely trying to, again, capitalize and preempt Star Wars into cinemas. But it also is so much more than that. It is fun, it is pulpy, it is a space opera. It's based also on kind of a Japanese kind of folktale about these magic beans and these warriors, and so it mixes these elements, and it has different things in it that you might expect. It doesn't really follow Star Wars all the way through. It isn't a remake or a kind of in the vein of, say, A Fistful of Dollars being basically Yojimbo kind of lifted wholesale. It isn't like that, and it has its own feel to it. I mean, the music, I mean, is almost like, you know, some of the notes are similar to Star Wars. I mean, but then again, you look at John Williams and see what he kind of ripped off from Holtz. You know, you listen to The Planets, you're like, oh, okay. But you know, it's that kind of thing of like, you know, when does homage go over into plagiarism? You know, when does when does copying an idea become theft, and all that kind of stuff. But I loved this. It was such a blast. It was Star Wars through a different cultural lens. You know, there's a lot of miniatures that arguably aren't up to the same kind of standard of Star Wars, but there's a charm to it. And I loved the performers in it. You know, Sonny Chiba stars in this, but there's also, I think, Victor Morrow, and it's kind of an international cast. You've got Hiroyuki Sanada in this. And I just love the feel of it. You know, I was so caught up with it that I watched it again with the English dub, and the English dub on this release is fantastic because it includes the actual audio of all the American actors in the cast, and so you get to experience it in a different way. I almost wish there was a hybrid version where you could have the Japanese audio with the subtitles, and then for the American actors, the English audio. But it's a different way of watching the film, and it really is fun, you know. And I would even say there's a couple of things in this film that, to me, I feel like kind of influence Return of the Jedi. A couple of things in there. So, you know, make of that what you will. But I loved this so much. I loved this so much. When I got this, Eureka sent me a copy to review. It came, and the case in the bottom here was crushed. You know, look at this. Get some focus there. Yeah, the case in the bottom there was crushed. The inside inlay is kind of torn at the bottom there. So I went ahead and bought myself a second copy because I wanted a pristine version. So yeah, that's just me. That's how much I loved it. I absolutely loved Message from Space, and I will watch it again and again. And God, just I'm not going to put clips in this video, but just look at some of the stuff on the back here. It's just visually, it's so much fun. Thematically, there's just great stuff in it. It's a great film. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. If you can't tell already. So moving into the top three, the best of the best right here. And I should say also there's a great commentary on this. I think Tom Mez did the commentary on this one. I love Tom Mez's commentaries. Yes, he did a commentary on Message from Space. There's a great archival making of documentary on this as well. There's some really good stuff in there with Sonny Chiba. I really enjoyed his interview in that. A new appreciation on the film. It's just it looked great as well. It's a great great transfer. All the elements that make a great release. Number 3 is Spine Number 293, another film by Kinji Fukusaku, from 1964, Wolves, Pigs, and Men. This is one I did kind of push through, and I edited the really long review. I think my footage was like over an hour for this, and I got it down to like 52 minutes or something. Great film. Absolutely brilliant. This is kind of crime, drama, in a way reminiscent of Reservoir Dogs. Most of it's set in this one location. Money's been stolen, high tension, torture, money at stake. But also there's this kind of brilliant central kind of dramatic tension between these three brothers, and you can kind of look at them as a wolf, a pig, and a man. And the three brothers who have all kind of gone off in different ways since their kind of youth and have done different things, and now are all brought together in this explosive conflict, and it's who's going to make it out, without facing certain doom. Great performances, a real pressure cooker of a situation, brilliantly shot. Ken Takakura again, but the whole cast is great. I've forgotten the names of the actors now, but is it Rentaro Mikuni? Where did that come from? Yes, Rentaro Mikuni and Kinya Kitaoji. They play the three brothers. Ken Takakura plays the third. Great film. A great commentary from Jasper Sharp, I believe, that I really enjoyed. Yes. Interview with Junya Sato, who wrote the film, co-wrote the film, and then also with producer Toro Yoshida. So it was nice to kind of get some insight from people who actually worked on the film. So there's some really good extras on this. It's not like stuffed to the brim with extras, but the film speaks for itself, and it was just incredible. Like I think it's a masterpiece. Just no notes, Absolutely loved it. Wolves, Pigs, and Men. Highly recommended. Great film, great release. Moving to number 2 now. This might be a bit of a surprise to some people. A bit of a shock entry at number 2. The Louis Feuillade Complete Crime Serials box set. Yes, the big one. The one everyone's talking about. The one that is now out of print, sold out, gone. I believe there's still some copies on different websites, but as far as Eureka's website is concerned, this is now done. It's finished. They sold out. I don't know if they're going to do a standard reissue. I would think they would have to, given the demand. But limited to 2,000 copies. I've done kind of a lengthy video going into this and unboxing it and stuff and talking about it. Gorgeous set. Absolutely beautiful. This is one where the packaging really is a big selling point. A nice, I think, 100-page book or 80-page book perhaps. 4 crime serials from the 1910s. This is Spy number 296 through 299 in the MOC collection. So why is this number 2 and not number 1? Because it's been sweeping awards. People have been praising it as maybe the best release of the year. And that's something that I wish I could do is kind of do a best Blu-ray releases of 2024, but I just don't have the time to kind of spread my wings that far, and I'm kind of loyal to Eureka, and that's the way I like it. I love what they put out, and again, you have people moaning about the kung fu stuff, the martial arts stuff, but I happen to really love that stuff, so I haven't really been let down by any release by Eureka this year, and I've really enjoyed, at the very least, all of them, and I've loved a lot of them. This one I've only just began to dive into. I've started watching Fantomas, and I'm really enjoying it. But I have to say, there's a reason this isn't at my number one spot. Even though it's like when it was announced, I was just like, holy shit! I was so excited. So Fantomas here I've started watching, and you know, like I said, with silent films, there's just such a wonder to the fact that they even exist, and knowing how many silent films are lost forever. The fact that we have what we do have is remarkable, but that feeling of wow, look at this from 100 years ago only gets more intense the further back you go. And so to see these kind of elaborate productions from the 1910s, because the 1920s was really like the heyday of silent cinema, when they really just were, cooking on a different level, But to see 1910s, and David Collette says in the commentary on the first disc that there's kind of the primitive era of silent film, and that's where this kind of this cycle of crime serials takes place. But it's just so fascinating, and I would say that my feeling of just being fascinated with like just looking at the image and knowing that it was captured in the 1910s in France kind of is bigger than my enjoyment of the actual material. The Fantomas story is starting to really drag for me. It's very just like, and then this happened, and then this happened. But it's film history, and I love that. And there's all these details that I'm loving kind of going through. But I have a little bit of an issue with this set, and I'll talk about it down the line. But let's just say that the transfers of these films, and I have actually looked through all the discs. Well, not every single disc, but every single serial. So there's 4 overall. Again, if you haven't seen my unboxing and you're unfamiliar, probably not. We have Fantomas, Les Vampires, try and get some focus here, Judex, and T-Men. So that spans 1913 to 1918. I just love the design of this thing. It's just incredible. Again, the packaging is really... And this is also notable for being, I think, the first time that Eureka have ever done like digipacks. It's a really... I won't take it all out because I've done that in another video. But yeah, there's something about the transfers on these that I'm not the biggest fan of. And that's nothing to do with Eureka. That is the Gaumont restorations that were used for this. And so it's just being a video guy, I've noticed little things that most people wouldn't notice. And I'm just like, I wish that wasn't there. So that kind of holds me back from putting this at the number 1 spot. Also, I haven't gone through everything yet. I have seen Les Vampires before. But I'm getting through Fantomas now, then I'll watch Les Vampires again, and then, So my review of this will be probably a project for the entirety of 2025. And again, I know that it's sold out and people are disappointed, but it's just amazing to me that a release like this, of just crime serials from the 1910s, has sold out. 2,000 copies, that the demand was so high. That's just awesome. I think that's great. Not so great for people who missed out on it, of course, but that makes me happy and makes me hope that, we'll see a lot more stuff like this, because I would love to see more stuff like this. And the transfer thing is unfortunate, but it's not a deal breaker. They don't look bad. They're not unwatchable. It's nothing like that. It's just these little details that I, as a perfectionist, and knowing that it could be a little bit better, it bugs me a little bit, but I'm still kind of in heaven watching stuff like this, even if, again, the actual films themselves are very much like Fantomas deceives this, but there's fun stuff in it, and I'm really looking forward to giving my review of Fantomas at the very least. I have so many notes that I've written down, so it's going to be... I'm going to try and do a special series of videos on this, because it really deserves it. Again, I'm hoping that me talking about imperfections in the transfers is something that puts people off, but in this case it doesn't matter because it's already sold out. But if the standard edition re-release comes out, I highly would recommend it, because it's film history, and it's just such a treat and a privilege that we get to see this kind of stuff in this kind of high definition release. It's incredible. So what is my number 1 release of 2024? I've waffled on for long enough. Well, I think even if my kind of gripes with the transfer on the Louis Feuillade set were not there, this would still be at my number 1 spot. You probably guess what it is, because I've made multiple videos on it. And man, yeah, it's just the best. Laurel and Hardy, The Silent Years, 1927. This is spine number 294 in the collection, and they have confirmed that I think it's spine number 295, directly following this in the collection, the chronology of the spines, will be Laurel and Hardy, The Silent Years, 1928. They've not made a release date for that yet, but at some point in 2025 it's coming. This is one of my favorite home video releases ever. Right? Forget favorite Blu-ray releases of the year. Forget Blu-ray release. One of my favorite home video releases ever. This is just incredible. It really is. A 2-disc set, loaded to the gills, you know, so there's like, was it 315 minutes? So that's like, yeah, 5 hours and 15 minutes worth of films, all comedy shorts. From 1921 to 1927. So the majority is 1927, but they've put in earlier shorts that show you, and I've talked about this before, but just for the sake of this video, of course. They start with the first film that ever featured Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. They're not together, they're not a duo, they just play different characters. It's a Stan Laurel film, and Oliver Hardy has a bit part in it. And then they do the same and show you a couple of different ones to just show you, like, here's when they first appeared on screen together. And then here's where they first starred together, but it wasn't quite the duo yet. And with every successive film, and sometimes it goes back a bit and forward a bit, you start to see the magic begin to form, and it's unbelievable. And the transfers on this are fantastic. And what I really love about it is they don't try to overly clean it up, which is a little bit of my problem with the Le Vampire transfer. I think it's a bit too cleaned up for my liking. You know, frames will flash up from a different source, but you know that they're using the absolute best that they can, and some of them look jaw-dropping for the time. Again, just the quality and the grain and the detail. But it's just, and it's not even just the films. It's not even just seeing this legendary comedic duo forming before the advent of sound, and they were such an amazing duo act that they started in the silent era. They started teaming up together in the silent era, and they worked. The comedy works. They're such brilliant films. I have so much fun with them. And then they managed to kind of go through the transition into the sound era and became even more popular. You know, I mean, again, it's different because Keaton and Chaplin and Lloyd, they were all established in like the early 20s. This is like right in the tail end of the silent era, but you know, the comedy worked in the silent films, and it works even better in sound. And you know, it's just a special thing, and they're such a great team. And I just loved seeing the evolution of it. It's something I never really thought about before. I grew up with these films, or not these films, but the films of the 30s, the classic Laurel and Hardy films. And I didn't know too much about their silent work or whether it really resembled what we know as Laurel and Hardy in those silent films. And at first it doesn't. But it's like, you know, you'll watch a film like this is a good comedy film. It's not a good Laurel and Hardy film because they haven't found the key to it yet. But there's a hint of it, and just a little bit of a flourish of an expression. You know, oh, that's going to come into play later on, you know. And the extra, I mean, look at the extras on this. I mean, look at the synopsis, right? At the top here, these 2 paragraphs, and then look at the extras. They went overboard on this in the best possible way. There's just so many audio commentaries, and the ones that I loved the most were the ones by David Collette. I love his commentaries dearly, and he did such a great job not telling these great stories from this era and putting so much into context. And you know, I've already filmed I think 2 hours worth of videos reviewing this, and I'm still not done. So there's going to be, I've done 2 videos on it already, but I'm going to do an in-depth review that's probably going to be about 4 or 5 hours long at some point in 2025. There's like Super 8 versions of some of these films. Like they've left no stone unturned, it feels like. And then there's like footage of Laurel and Hardy visiting the UK. There's some stuff in that I find really moving. And then there's like an hour-long interview with Stan Laurel in audio form on the first disc that was just even hearing about his start in the industry with Chaplin and going to America for the first time in the 1910s and working on the stage. And I mean, it was just, I think the first interview is I forget which one it was, and there's two audio interviews, and one took place not long after the death of Oliver Hardy. It just felt like it shouldn't even exist. There's a booklet with notes on all of the films by Paul Merton. I mean, it's an amazing release. It really is. I cannot praise it highly enough. Laurel and Hardy, The Silent Years, 1927. Cannot wait for the 1928 one to come out. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I wish that they could somehow find the rights and the material to just roll through every year. 28, 29, let's do all of them, because what they've done here in this package is fantastic. That's my number one release of 2024. And that is my video, which went a lot longer than I thought it would, but hey, it's me. I love this stuff and I love talking about it. Of course, I was going to waffle on and on and on, but, enjoy. Well, I hope you enjoyed, because you wouldn't say enjoy at the end of something, would you? You wouldn't give someone a meal and then watch them eat it and go enjoy once they finished it, would you? No. So I hope you enjoyed. And I don't know what this energy is about. I'm sorry. But thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, as I always say. And here's to 2025. I have a couple more things to come, video-wise. But yeah, again, it's been a bit of a rough year for me, and a very rough holiday season with a couple of very significant deaths of people that were very close to me. So it's kind of been on and off with working on some of these videos for the Eureka Blu-rays and stuff. So I was kind of been a bit stop and start. But I wanted to do a top 10. Again, there's a couple of things I haven't seen. I think Broken Oath, I haven't got. Swordsman of All Swordsmen, I didn't get, and I think that's out of print now as well. So I need to kind of track that down, because I think those two are the only ones I don't have from the 2024 release slate. So I would like a kind of complete 2024 collection for Eureka. And then we move on to 2025, and then again, looks like there's some really good stuff coming in the first few months of the year. And I'm excited to see if we'll get more silent stuff. Well, we know we will with the Laurel and Hardy thing, but given the success of the Louis Feuillade box, I hope that is a sign of things to come. But also, I'd love to see more animation as well. And I'm surprised that really the top 5, there wasn't more Hong Kong stuff in this. I love all the Hong Kong stuff. But I guess, there's just a higher quality in some of these other releases and stuff. Like Wolves, Pigs and Men is just a masterpiece, As much as I love the Hong Kong stuff, not many of them are like masterpieces. They're just incredible entertainment. So it's different levels. But again, there has not been a release this year I haven't at least enjoyed quite a bit, So yeah, that's it. 2024 in the books. Hope you all had a good year. If you didn't, I hope the next year is a good one. I know it's kind of a construct in a sense, but it is nice to have that kind of reset and a new year to kind of refocus your mind on things and maybe some goals and projects that you might have. So good luck with that if that's kind of on your mind. And yeah, I'll probably do a video talking about, moving into, looking back on. I always do like a look back and a look forward. So I'll do that too. But otherwise, Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next one.